people and the world without provision for sin, something he would never do. The Hebrew Scriptures contain more than 300 prophecies telling when and where the Messiah would be born and how to recognize him when he came. All of these were specifically fulfilled to the letter in the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus of Nazareth. If he is not the Messiah, there is no Messiah. For he is the very one who on the exact day the angel Gabriel foretold to Daniel rode into Jerusalem, was hailed as the Messiah, then rejected and crucified as the Jewish prophets foretold. According to Israel's own scriptures, it is 1900 years too late to expect the first coming of the Messiah. Israel's only hope is his second coming. We may be certain that having brought Israel to birth, God will complete his purpose. He declares,
"Shall a nation be born? Shall I bring to birth, saith the Lord, and shut the womb?"
Tragically, it will take Armageddon for most Jews to believe in their Messiah. When Yahweh personally appears to rescue Israel as the world's armies are about to destroy her, they will see at last that he is a man who was pierced to the death for their sins and resurrected, the very Messiah promised by their prophets, whom they have rejected. Then all Israel still alive will believe. But for all those, Jew and Gentile, who die without believing in him, there is tragically no hope.
Welcome back to Truth Seekers. And one person, why the sin separate and everything like that. And we inherit a tendency in one person, why the sin separate and everything like that. And we inherit a tendency to sin according to the Bible. And God's not going to allow sinners. He's also just. So he's not going to allow sinners into heaven to pollute heaven. And so we're going to be changed into new creations, and we're accepting Jesus. Not only is he just, that means justice, and therefore justice means separation from God unless we've accepted Jesus as cleansing us and being in him, in his blood, being willing to accept his cleansing, because that's the only way cleansing could come, and that God says those who seek with all their heart will see that Jesus is the only way. And I saw it as a Jew, you saw it as a Catholic. It's not in the Catholic Church, it's not in Jewish tradition. It's in the Bible only, and only Jesus cleansed, only his blood, and sin is the key thing.
That's right. And also the biggest difference, or one of the biggest differences, Mike, that in what we believe is the truth, in all these other religions, they're all good works based, or based on works. Ours is based on his work on the cross. And he said, "It is finished." And as you saw in that film clip, there's no more sacrifices going on in Israel because Jesus was the final sacrifice. He did it for you. He did it for me. And God said, believe in my Son. Believe in what my Son has done for you, and you shall be saved. So now we have an advocate who stands between the Father and my sin, and that is Jesus himself, who paid that price. Isn't that an awesome thing, Mike? We have a lawyer who represented us at the judgment seat and said, Your Honor.
Right. He said if we confess our sins, he's faithful and just to forgive us our sins. At least John said it, and Jesus says the same thing, basically. And so he's the only way. It's only through because the judgment is death.
The wages of sin is death.
And God's not going to allow us alive in his kingdom unless we're changed, unless we have the Messiah in our place.
And that's that gift of grace. He said, and it is the gift. by faith. And so that gift is crucial.
By the way, we'll be back in the last 2 weeks of September live. The next 2 weeks were reruns. And I mean, by the way, we'll be back in the last 2 weeks of September live. The next 2 weeks were reruns. And I mean to cut you off, I want people to know we're not live the next couple of weeks, but the last 2 weeks of September we will be.
Good night, everybody.